Hey everyone, welcome back to my devlog series where I'm making a adventure exploration game inspired by the N64 era called Space 64. That's a working title, but hey. Well, it's been a little while for me. I've been sick again. I've managed to still consistently release devlogs, but I don't know why. I just keep getting sick at the moment. I was sick in devlog 5, and then if you hear it certain moments in devlog 6, you can hear me getting sick again. But I think I might finally be done being sick. I'm almost there. I'm still a little bit blocked up, but I think I'm there. Anyway, 30 seconds of talking. Let's jump in to this week's devlog, because I'm pretty sure that thumbnail on the screen is exciting you all, because one, doesn't have the main character in it for once. It has some new creature, and in the background, you can see a brand new mechanic as well. But first, I just want to talk about YouTube a little bit. I've only been doing these devlogs for, 7 weeks now? I've had a few people asking me how they can support, the game development and me. So I have enabled memberships on the channel. They're pretty cheap. If you want to subscribe every month, you'll get a little icon next to your name. I'll also shout you out. If you're a member of the channel, I'll make sure that I shout you out at the end of devlogs and stuff like that. And if you don't want to subscribe and you just want to do a one-off support thing, super thanks are enabled on the channel as well. So if you want to hit those and you can just click a little thing and send off some money towards me, that would be much appreciated. But again, all of this is optional. I don't want anyone to think that they have to do any of this. This is purely just for those people who have asked for a way to support Space 64. This is how we're going to do it right now. In the future, maybe we'll look at Patreon and other things. But I just thought because the devlogs are on YouTube, and I only really post on YouTube and then glimpses of things on Twitter, I think doing this on YouTube is kind of makes the most sense. So anyway, I've talked about that for way too long. Feel free to just ignore everything I've just said if all you're here for is watching the videos. I don't blame you. This is what you're here for. So let's jump in. In last week's devlog, devlog 6, I showed you all what had been staring you right in the eyes since devlog 1, which were the jet boots. We implemented those, and they're going really well. I've tweaked them slightly, and we've added a few more things that you'll see later in this devlog, but still immensely fun to boost around the environment in, and I absolutely love that. We also started making our planet. We started blocking out this huge planet that's going to be Planet 1, and the reason we needed these jet boots was to get around, traversal. What we also did last week is we started building out the starting area of this block out. So we started figuring out the levels where you're going to learn to walk, climb, and do combat and other things are going to be in this little starter area. And that's what this looks like, but it's changed a little since last week. I've been working on it while I was sick, just kind of recording bits and working on little bits and not really feeling like recording too much when I've been just slumped in my chair. But here's how the crash site area looks now. I've added a little bit of smoke in there. There's going to be a crashed drop pod in there as well. And the actual climbable ledges now are all symbolized and shown with these nice glowing yellow flowers, which kind of look like stars, right? Which is an interesting link to space. And you can now climb up these surfaces, and you'll always be drawn to them with the little yellow flowers on them, which is a nice way to kind of draw the eye to it. And you can see this whole upper area now has different areas, and you are now drawn to having to climb up these areas. And that area we just walked past is actually going to be where you meet your first enemy, and that's going to be where you first learn combat. We have one of the little jump flowers, the bounce flowers, in here as well. I might rework those slightly with some of the new additions we make in this episode, but that's going to be the first time you meet one or use one. You can choose not to use it totally. You could keep walking around this environment and doing your own thing. But there you go. You can see down to the crash site. And over here, you can keep looking around. You can see the waterfall and everything trickling down from above. But here is now the portal gateway entrance to the open world area. And this is where you can walk through and you'll be greeted with that view of the huge open world. So I do want to, this is me walking back in now, so you can obviously walk just straight back in to the this same space, and it works. There's a little vine wall you can climb up, so you're never stuck out of this area. You can come back to it. You can, reminisce if you want to. Again, I want to make sure these areas are re-explorable, and you can keep going back to them, and I'll just show you the jump pad here. There we go. Works great. There is one thing I want to talk about, which is that this doorway here and the kind of portal effect that you see on it. I was tinkering with this a lot and kind of just stopped at one point because I was like, well, I'm going to ask you all for some feedback, and I want you to kind of put suggestions in the comments of what you think these should look like. One of my other ideas was having trails around some of the particles that are swirling. but then it almost felt like it looked too much like an alien portal rather than just a transition point. That's all I want these to be, a black sort of dark void that fades in and out as you get closer and further away from it. I do want these. I don't want you to always be able to see things. It's so that I can kind of deload and load areas and things like that when I'm doing optimizing in the way future. I definitely want these in, so I would love your feedback on how you think these should look. If you even like what they look like now, then let me know. And then I was doing this, and I realized, yeah, really, we should really have a way to deal with that. And Sink Swim had a great suggestion back in Devlog 4, where, why don't you add a glider? Well, here's a glider. I've been playing Breath of the Wild recently in anticipation for Tears of the Kingdom, so I don't know why I didn't think of this. But I think it's a great suggestion. Having a way to glide across areas, but I want it to really soup your energy away. I want it to do double the amount of energy than it does just boosting around on your little jet boots on the floor. This thing isn't really going to propel you much, but you can get so much momentum from jumping off a platform with it that I think, heavy cost with it. So I did that. I grabbed that animation I just quickly made, grabbed the quick glider I made, threw it in engine extremely fast, really easy actually to implement this. I was surprised, and it works great. On the left is without the glider, on the right is with the glider. It works great. Super, super happy with that, and here it is with a few particles added. So there's a little puff of smoke when you pull it out, and you've got the trails on the edges of the triangular pieces of the glider as well. It works really great. I'm super, super happy with it. So thank you again to Sink Swim, who actually put this comment on Devlog 4. Worked out great. Thank you. It's a really great suggestion. And Passmat's got some stuff now. Hey everyone, Passmat here. This is my first time actually recording anything voice-wise for this devlog, even though you've already heard me in the future. I'm still a little bit sick. I'm just slightly at the end of being sick again. Devlog 5 and Devlog 7. What is going on? But I decided to take a little bit of time, just while I've been feeling sick, to look at what we might do for the HUD, the health system, the energy bar, and things like that. And I really liked these. This one here is actually from Biomutant, and I quite liked this a lot. Obviously, we have the classic Zelda ones, and then some other more sci-fi takes. And my first idea was going to be something like this. You'd start with this sort of health and stamina. You'd then be able to collect this many. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And you'll be able to extend your stamina like this. Again, we'll talk about how you do that in a little bit. I ended up not liking that. So even if I put the screenshot of the game on here and we put this in, it's not really doing much. It just kind of sits up there. It doesn't really yell sci-fi HUD at you. So I really went away and I designed something new. So this is how I want the HUD to look when we finally implement it in the game. Let me turn on some of my notes. So technically you'll have 30 starting health. Enemies will do 5 damage to you or 10 damage to you. So they'll either do a full chunk or half a chunk of damage to you. And you'll start with 100 energy, which is actually what we have in the game right now. The current default is set to 100. But over the course of the game, you will be able to collect health canisters or health canister pieces. So health canisters you'll get from defeating bosses. They'll give you a full chunk of 10 new health. Health canisters you'll need to collect 3 of, and 3 of those will result in a new health bar. Similar system for the energy. 3 energy capsules or canisters pieces will result in 1 new 50 block being added. So with that in mind, this is what the final health would look like. Let me turn off the notes. There we go. So this is what the final health would look like if you went out of your way and got all of the health canister pieces, all of the energy canister pieces, and got them all. At a minimum, you could get to the end of the game with just this initial 100, and then the first 3 health bars plus another 4. So these 3, then another 4. So that's where you could go to. It would just be that. That's kind of the minimum requirements of ending the game. All of these, are going to be optional sort of ones that you have to go out into the world to collect things and get. So that's another thing I want to talk about, is adding more to the world, because we've only really talked about the dungeon shards to unlock the dungeons, but I also want to include some smaller puzzles or hidden away little areas where you'll be able to collect these. So let me just explain the different collectibles you'll find on the planet. I've talked about dungeon shards before. 15 of them unlocks the dungeons on the world, on the different planets. But I've decided that if you go out of your way and get all 30 of them, if you want to be a completionist, I'm going to give you like a unique cosmetic that in the inventory in the menu screen you can equip, and you can swap between different ones if you want. They're going to look like, they'll be colored around that planet's theme, there'll be like glowing lines and cool particles and stuff on them, and each one will be slightly different. And then the other things I want to talk about are health and energy systems. So you'll have health pickups and you'll have energy pickups similar to, for example, again, hearts in Zelda or something like that. You'll have those in the world that you'll be able to find. Enemies might drop them as well. And then you also have health canister pieces and energy canister pieces. And collecting 3 of these in the world will give you an extra block of health, which is 10 health, or an extra block of energy, which is 50 energy. And you need 3 to complete that, to get that completed. Health canisters will also be dropped by bosses. Energy canisters aren't really going to be a thing. You'll never find them as a complete canister. But again, it'll be 3 of the smaller pieces that you find will create the energy canister, and then you'll increase your energy bar. So the main things you'll be going around the worlds looking for are the dungeon shards. And then when you're going around, you'll find health pickups, your energy pickups, and, you know, enemies will drop those. But if you want to go out of your way, there will be 6 health canister pieces on every world, which means 2 more blocks of extra health. And there'll be 3 energy canister pieces per world, so another block of energy per world that you'll be able to go and find on these worlds as you go around. All these images you're seeing on the screen now, just purely me drawing very quick shapes in Photoshop to kind of get this idea across while I'm still a little bit sick. Hopefully this all makes sense, and I hope that the idea of having a unique cosmetic item that you can wear and will show that you went out of your way to be a completionist is kind of a nice sort of incentive if you want to go and get those 30 dungeon shards on every world. But you only really need to go get 15. That might not be 15 and 30 on every planet, by the way. There may be different numbers. I haven't decided on that yet. But hopefully this system will make sense. I guess the next part of the devlog will be when I'm not so sick, and we'll carry on with progressing with the game. I just thought of one point that people might actually ask about when I showed this, which is the energy pickups. Why would you need them? Why would enemies drop them? Probably enemies wouldn't drop them. It would mostly be out in the open world area where you're going to be boosting and gliding around. Maybe you'll find them so that, you know, you can replenish your energy faster, because energy recharges anyway, but health doesn't. So health pickups will be much more useful for combat and things like that, while the energy pickups will be out in the open world so that you can keep quickly moving through the area, and, you know, you can veer towards one, pick it up and keep boosting along, that sort of stuff. Well, I guess that's enough from past Matt talking about the HUD and the items and collectibles in the game. It's time now to show the thing that you all saw in the thumbnail at the start of the video when you clicked on this video, which is our first creature, our first enemy that you're going to fight in the game, our first wildlife on Planet 1. I started shaping this out just really rough, as you can see here, just kind of trying to get the exact shapes I wanted, and just using some really low poly spheres and shapes, really just blocking it out really simply and just trying to feel like if this is what I wanted. I kind of wanted something that was a mix between Tyrannosaurus Rex, a Pachycephalosaurus, and kind of a fish, maybe a lizard in there, like mixing a few things together was kind of the main goal of what this creature was going to be. But it also still needed to look unique and alien and different. It didn't need to look like any of those things. It was kind of meant to be an amalgam of those things, as if a fish or an aquatic creature of some sort at some point of time evolved to have arms and legs because the water's dried up on this planet. That's kind of the idea. So I recorded the whole time-lapse of me modeling this just so that you all can see it, just like I did with the main character back in Devlog 1. You can see some annotations sometimes I draw on the screen in Blender just to kind of start getting out shapes and where I want the mouth to be and stuff like that. This was a long process because I was just trying to get the shapes and facial features the way I wanted them to look, and I very much wanted it to have this sort of underbite sort of mouth as well, and I wanted to give it teeth and a tongue, very low poly, very simple, but I wanted it to have all these things so I could have it doing some interesting idle things while it wandered around the planet. It could roar in some places. It could crouch down and eat some grass. It could, you know, like look around and stuff. I wanted it to have a really distinctive look. And this is pretty much how it ended up looking. It looks quite strange like this because there's like a bunch of weird rock formations on its head, which is something I wanted to add to give it kind of a unique sort of look, like it has a very hard shell so it can headbutt you and stuff like that as well. But as you can see, it turned out pretty good. I decided to texture it and give it a very cool red and green look. Mostly red, kind of fading into some browns with greens at the end of its now really useless fins. That's kind of the whole idea here. And I showed this to one of my friends, and their initial response was, it looks really goofy. Good. Goofy is good. Not goofy as in Goofy the character, as in just goofy looking like a goofy goober. But I kind of like that. I kind of wanted it to be awkward, almost in this sort of strange adolescent stage. Well, a little bit like a Pokemon when you have the starter and then the final evolution. That one in the middle that's kind of like, doesn't quite look right. That's kind of what I wanted this guy to look like. Not quite what you expect the apex predator to look like on the planet, but maybe something in the middle of the food chain to look. And that's very much my goal here. You can see a part of the rig that I built here. It turned out really nicely, really happy with this rig. And yeah, its mouth can close and it has a slight underbite, which I'm really happy with. But you might see it looking dopey, hanging out on the planet like this. Or you never know, it might be a little bit more angry and sticking its tongue out at you. Who knows? It's going to do a lot of really cool things. I'm really excited to animate it and get it in engine. But that's where I'm at with it. Hopefully you all like it, and I'd love to hear what you all think of it. It's such a unique creation for me, and I had so much fun making it. So yeah, hopefully you all like it. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I realized I recorded all of that without telling you all what this creature is called. This is the Hopper. It is the middle enemy of probably 4 or 5 that you'll find on the main planet, in the planet open area in the wilderness. There will be other enemies that you'll come across in the dungeon, but that's for a much future devlog to talk about. But anyway, let's carry on with this devlog. And it makes sense that in this devlog, we just carry on working on the Hopper a little bit more, doesn't it? So I decided to animate him. This is his main movement. Little hops he does around. These are a little bit slow though, this animation. It kind of works. It's a little bit floaty, but I'll tweak that a little bit and also change the play rate a little bit in engine. But overall, pretty happy with how this turned out. I like bringing characters to life, but it makes sense as well. Let's just get this guy in game. Let's get our first enemy in engine, working, looking cool, attacking us, and all of that sort of stuff. So that's the goal for the rest of the devlog, is getting the Hopper in game, adding a health system, a damage system, and all of that good stuff. Here you go. You can see I got him in engine, and he works pretty well. He actually fits in perfectly. There he is, eating the air, as he does. This is one of his idle animations, just kind of hanging out there. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think for very much for now, I'm really happy with it, and all the animations are very quick, just keyframe animations, but they actually seem to suit the style quite well, and they work really nicely. And yeah, even here in the coral little prototype area, just grazing, having a nice time. Hopefully you all like them. Hope you all like the Hopper. I think we can have different versions of the Hopper with different colors and different attacks and stuff as well, to have maybe some little bit of a hierarchy or something. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you all think down in the comments below. So next, I started working on turning that AI system that I built in Devlog 5 into a working system for the Hopper, and also with a way for us to be able to scale it and dynamically adapt the AI system for a ton of different creatures, because before it was just set for one, and I get kind of halfway through that, but there's still some more I need to do. Overall, really happy with this though, and the system didn't take too long to get working. There was a few little things I had to tweak, and a few things I managed to surprise myself in actually getting working, and I got stuck on a few things when I was changing the variables over, but overall, really happy with it. I'm using some pretty rough systems to make things work, but here you go. I am setting up the health system that I talked about earlier in this video. Obviously, I'm not going to put the design and everything in yet until I know exactly how I'm going to scale things, but I thought I would at least build the health bar and scale the stamina energy bar all sort of similarly, and build the health system into the blueprint and everything that I did there. All worked really nicely, really easily. You'll see it. It's a big sort of red chunky bar in the top right corner. You'll see it a few times, no doubt. My main focus now was getting it so that the AI systems of the hopper would start attacking me and actually start being able to do damage to me. And one of the things I noticed, I was having a bunch of issues and I realized it was really dumb things, but I like leaving all this sort of stuff in the time lapse so you can see me making mistakes. But I figured out a bunch of things. And then I was like, how am I going to quickly make this thing do damage? What do I already have in the game that does damage? The sword. So I literally made it so that an invisible version of the player's sword is in his mouth because it already has damage value. So I just created a child blueprint class of that sword and set its damage to 5 so that every time he's attacking, he technically is holding a sword in his mouth and he is attacking with it. And it ended up working really well. I'll probably adapt and change that system as we go forward. But for a really simple attack hitbox, I thought, it works well. And actually, when you see it later on, it works almost flawlessly. It's kind of surprising how well something like that can work. I end up adding a bunch of notifies and a bunch of custom events in place just so I can get things working. I think this was a point where I ended up stopping for a while and then coming back to it. Yeah. I had added those 2 little comment boxes in so I could remember when I came back to the blueprint that the top line was going to be if you died and the bottom line was going to be if you did damage or if you're taking damage. So that's so I can take I can have a hit animation in place. Obviously I haven't got one yet, so I just added those comments there for future Matt that I could know in the future to add those systems in. But yeah, I didn't want to speed up this time lapse too much as well, because you see I'm going through so many issues here. I'm having the worst time ever because I'm trying to get it to detect that I want the sword in his mouth to be a child blueprint class, and I ended up fixing it by deleting a bunch of stuff and then redoing it and making sure that the class that I'm calling is definitely calling the main character's sword, but as a array, not an array, but it's in a class of objects, not just one specific object. And then I tinkered around with the hopper's collision a little bit. I tried giving me a box collision, but it caused a load of issues with him moving because it was colliding with himself because of I wanted it to collide with pawns, which is what the player character is. So I ended up deleting that and actually just scaling up the size of the capsule in the middle, which works really nicely. Hello everyone, Past Matt here, and you can see now in the top right corner, we have the HUD. Obviously it's not the design I showed earlier, but it's that sort of segmented approach. We have the 30 health, which is in 3 blocks of 10, and then you have the 100 stamina, which is in 2 blocks of 50. Works really nicely. Again, it's just the temporary setup to see how it looks. I know a bunch of people have been asking about climbing speeds as well. Don't worry, that'll be something I revisit in a future devlog. These are just very, very basic climbing speeds. But you may have just noticed down here is our hopper. He's on patrol, and he's going to come and attack us now because he now has all of that set up. So if I stand here, he's going to come over and notice me, and he's going to do damage to me. You can see my health bar takes damage. I want to implement a few things like, I'm going to run away from him for a second and let him carry back on doing his thing. Run away. I don't think he sees me down up here. Maybe he does. I'm not sure. Oh no, he's just hopping around. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I want to implement a few other things, such as it so that when he's attacking me, I take damage and you see that. So like a hit animation on my character or a flash of red as well, maybe. Same with him. He right now, if I hit him, he'll die, but he's not gonna flash or anything like that, or do anything cool. So if I hop down here he is. He's gonna attack again. He got a good hit on me. I'm gonna have to attack him, or he would kill me. He's dead. He's gone. We killed our first hopper. But I'm really happy with how that works. Obviously, it's still early days, but that implementation is in the game now, and it works. It works really well. I'm super, super happy with that. And hopefully you all like that too, and you like seeing him come to life. And obviously we have a health system now, which is really cool. My main goals have been achieved today. We have got the hopper built. He's in game. We've added gliding. So let's go over some of those things, right? Let's go over some of those new features that we have. We've obviously just had the hopper, which is great. And this area, I think, is going to be a no boost, no glide sort of zone. But I can, of course, still show it. There we go. And glide down here. I want to do a lot more with the animations as well, but you can kind of save yourself from taking what will be fall damage as well, which is quite cool. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it all turned out. What I would love, for people who know Unreal really well, is there a way I can just spawn the character where my current viewport camera is? Like, I can be like, oh, spawn right here, and the player will just drop down. Because right now I have like multiple spawn points, and if I don't get the one I want, like if I wanted to spawn on that one I was just looking at, I'm like, oh, well, let's respawn over here. Oh, that's not the one I wanted either. Oh, there we go, now I've got it. I wish there was a way I could just click on here and be like, start from here. So yeah, if there's a better way to deal with that, that would be great, because I would love to have, especially while I'm developing the game, have like a ton of different either spawn points over the world, or just the ability to be like flying around in the camera and be like, oh, I'll just spawn here and drop in, and then it simulates the world and starts doing things. Because clicking up here and going to simulate doesn't really do what I want it to do either. It doesn't set the AI off whenever I try to just enter the game that way. But yeah, I'm going to keep clicking. There we go. We're back here again. So now we can boost around. We'll glide over to here. See how much energy it's using to glide, though? It does soup up that energy a lot more than other ones do. Like the normal boosting. Like this doesn't use that much energy. But I think to counteract that, I talked earlier in this devlog about collectibles. And I think we'll have some of those 50 canisters for the energy to replenish scattered over the world, and that'll be really cool. But this is so much fun. I don't know if I got it across enough in the last devlog, but this is so much fun. I just keep playing and just boosting around like this. And when this world is fully populated and there's puzzles to do and climbing to do and, you know, shards to collect, health canisters to collect, and all of that sort of stuff, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I like it a lot. Obviously, all these values will tweak a lot. Just like I talked about earlier, the climbing speed will tweak the amount of energy it takes to not only boost like this, and how much it takes away from you, but also how much energy it takes to use the glider and stuff like that. The glider, by the way, right now is set to the A button, which is currently the roll, but it only works if you're in the air. Like, if the game detects that you're falling, you can then pull out the glider. But here we are, we're back at the alien ruins. It doesn't really take that long to get here if you're just full-on boosting. I am thinking of maybe having some sort of teleporters around the world that will bring you back here as well. A lot of ways. I want to kind of streamline the progression to get back to this point, but I also want to give it to you, the player, the ability to just explore. And like, if you just want to go over here, you're like, okay, I'm off, and you can just boost over here. But I do think all the subzones, and I talked about those last time, the subzones around the outside, those are going to be, I think, restricted in boosting and gliding. I think you'll only be able to do like the normal walking and stuff. And I know some people have talked about how this feels quite slow. I have actually tweaked it, the walking speed, the default walking speed. I think it was about 300, I think it's 350 now. So it could kind of go higher, but I never really wanted it to be, oh, we're out of the map. Well, what a beautiful way to end the devlog, right? As we just plummet into the green. Well, yeah, hopefully you've all enjoyed this week's devlog. I didn't expect it to be as short as it is, but there's a bunch of games coming out right now as well, so I am kind of using a lot of my free time to play a lot of different games, which is always a lot of fun, but it means less time on Space 64. You know, attack me, little hopper? He's like, no, I've been damaged, and I'm not happy about it. You scared me. Yeah, he's scared. Scared little guy. There's a few different interactions I've put on the hopper that need tweaking, but they're all things for the future. I'm just going to kill him. He can get out of here. But there is a damage state where he could run away. Maybe I won't use that on the hopper, but maybe some of the other enemies. And there's a bunch of other things, you know, like to be more aggressive, to retreat. There's a lot of really cool different little behaviors and stuff that we can expand upon. But until next time, I want to thank you all so much for watching. And yeah, I would absolutely love to hear your feedback on all the things we've talked about in this devlog. So please leave the comments down below. and I'll be back soon. I don't know when the next devlog will be because of all the games coming out. We've just had Jedi Survivor last week. We got Tears of the Kingdom next week, but I will keep working on Space 64 as frequently as I can. Thank you all so much. Goodbye!